Hey, folks, this is Eric Mashinsky. It is Thursday, October 20th, 2022, and I want to get down to the nitty gritty here today on just some very clear thoughts that I've had about this market um, and just the read I have on this, as well as the plan on how to survive it. And because, look, here's the bottom line. If you're a metals and mining investor, you've been getting your face kicked in for almost 2 years. Okay. We've had a bearish environment in the metals and certainly in the miners, since like early, 2021. Um, it's been a rough environment. And a lot of these stocks are down tremendously from their highs. And I'm going to look at a few different things, but when we look at the tops and even the S&P, I'm going to talk a little bit about macro, and I'm going to talk about the mind frame uh, that is going to win, that you need to have, or you're going to mess up a very big opportunity. And I know that some people, it's an opportunity, but it could just be one of those situations where you know you need to fight to survive and hold what you can, no matter what your situation. If you have income and you have good income at this time, you're in a great position. Then you have the opportunity to choose if you want to accumulate this bear market, some of your favorite names, if you believe in the space, right? So that's the key. This bear market environment that we have in metal mining stocks, and you all know my favorite areas. Let's keep it to gold miners, silver miners, nickel miners, copper miners, lithium miners, vanadium miners, exploration companies and producers up and down that rung, listed companies, TSXV, CSE listed stocks. It doesn't matter, everything is down, and to proportionate to the size and the stage of the assets and or the company, the market capitalization, they've all been hit tremendously. I'm going to pull up GDXJ now, because if you look at a 2-year chart, I mean, this is a 2-year chart that gives us a good feel where it's been cut in half. It has been cut in half going back to really in late 2020. We've had a downtrend since we peaked in, I think it was like, it looks like here there's a little bit of a tough area to see, but yeah, we're talking like last July, not last July, 2 years ago, July, since that big bounce we had off of those March 2020 lows, we have been at a downtrend. Now, in 2022, we had a pretty fierce rally early this year, which took the GDXJ from 37-ish up to 51. If not quite a 50% move, call it 45%. That was a very nice rally. I know that I kind of was surprised going into April. It was March, actually. In March is when it was. In April, I was unconscious in a coma for the first few weeks. So I don't remember that decline very much, which is when things got hit and started to get hit in the month of April, considerably into the first part of May, where GDXJ touched that high of 51. And, within 30 days, 3 weeks, we hit $35. And that's when things really puked out. Forgive me for not having my dates, but a lot of you know about I don't know if I put this out, I'd have to take another look with my short recommendations on real estate earlier this year. Buying options, long-term leaps on DRV, which is the 3X inverse US real estate index, and SRS, which is the 2X inverse. And we had some real big hedging gains there. That was a big help for me, because I think that it was probably in that May timeframe, late April, early May. The one thing I was doing when I became conscious was to I started shorting real estate in May with that trade and shared that with certainly with our premium and elite members. And it was a hedge against all the different things that I had. And, that ended up ripping. DRV, went from 42 in late May as a low up to 62. Now, when you have a move that big and you're on, it's levered, to real estate. So, it's three times juiced up to the regular moves in the real estate index. And also, on top of that, you have options that are very low priced, high risk, levered vehicles. I ended up taking out all of my principal and small profit on that rip because it happened pretty fast, if I recall. Just a few weeks is all it took, maybe a month, a little bit more, possibly a little bit less. But in any event, it was a very successful transaction to do that. But then we went all the way and grinded down on that trade to August, where I doubled down. I actually got even more aggressive and took bigger positions because I just didn't believe that the correction in the real estate market and in the markets and macro environment globally was done yet. And sure enough, that was when the hit really was big. We were at $35 on DRV. I could pull this stuff up for you guys and show you. I mean, I have proof of my transactions. I'm not fudging these numbers at all, and it is a little bit vague, but I want to give you an overall picture of what I've been doing, how I've been doing it, and where I'm at now, and what I'm doing going forward. Because frankly, that thing hit, that trade, those options, when DRV went from 35 to over $80. I mean, that was just this month. Okay, that was what are we talking about here? Last week. And last week is when I closed out. I took profits on the last half or third of that real estate transaction, short transaction, and I was up over 10x on a lot of those leap calls that were bought in August. Not all of them. Some of them that I still had on the books from back in May. I locked in about 7 to 10x on those. But, it was a wonderful leverage trade. It helped me quite a bit. And at different stages along the way, I started to carve those out, using it as dry powder to accumulate what I believe is a historical lifetime opportunity in the metals and mining stocks. Listen, people, here's the bottom line. You can get caught up in all this riffraff and bullshit about everybody picking what the Fed's going to do. Are we going into recession? I mean, you can watch CNBC all day. And essentially, you could just leave there and, read everybody in the gold sector that are talking about Armageddon, which we're probably already in. Who cares? It doesn't matter. The world is in bad shape. But, you can end up being just really confused. I'm not. I'm not confused. I know exactly the general direction. Exactly is not probably the way to put it. But in terms of the general strategy that I have, it's the same thing that I applied when monitoring and navigating the crypto bear market in 2018 and 2019, where Bitcoin went down over 87% from its highs in the first few days of January 2018. I had a strategy there. I was underwater on a lot of my positions, certainly even into the March 2020 crash. So I believe it was around March of 18 that I started to take an accumulation attitude in crypto. And it's the same thing that I've done with like these DRV and SRS leaps, buying it so that I could have a hedge against all of my longs in certain things. And, taking a position over time. What does that mean? Like right now, people are way too bearish. I love seeing this as, a long investor who's been accumulating, gold stocks and juniors and nickel juniors. I was early, you could say, on that transaction when I came out, and I've been vocal about the nickel opportunity, certainly over the course of 2022. I don't know if I was super vocal still in even like 2021, but I was already buying and accumulating positions in things like the Giga. And I've got a lot of these nickel juniors. I have, Nickel Limited, which is an Australian producer that's very significant size. And it's an ADR. There I go up and down the spectrum there, but a lot of my plays in nickel, I don't have as much capital at risk as I do in the gold and silver spaces. But frankly, it's like I'm way down the line. I'm with the junior exploration companies that have a lot of leverage to that nickel. Not only really the nickel price, because frankly, if they were really tied right now to the price of the commodities and the precious metals, we would be trading higher. There is a lot of different data that I'm not getting into in particular here to really just dig into a sort of a boring informational piece. But this is all my perspective comes from doing deep dives every day. I look at I've been able to curate is the word I would use over the last 15 to 20 years. I've been able to curate the sources that I look to that are key. A lot of it is technical research. Some of it is fundamental and macro, and they're the best in the world. They're the best investors in the world that help me to process what is coming. And then I have a very good, Eric Kwan, just so you know, I've been buying Bravada. I have told people that it is ridiculous that you have a 1,000,000 ounce. They're going to be updating the PEA this quarter, by the way, at Wind Mountain. You have a 1,000,000 ounce 43-101 gold resource, okay, which has like been trading at $2 an ounce of gold in the ground. Just inappropriate. It's not going to last. I don't care that management. They work with several companies. I don't like that. Okay, you need people that are going to sink their teeth in and have skin in the game, and that's where I've adjusted. How much I'm going to end up. Backing some of these smaller companies. There's a lot of good people that run them. There's a lot of honest geologists that run these companies, but they aren't ones that there's only a certain percentage of operators that are going to crush it. Okay, but I look at a Bravada, and I've just been doing what I'm suggesting you guys consider doing for yourselves. In anything you like. It doesn't have to be a gold investment letter play. It can be anything. You can even do it with GDXJ. You could do it with GDX. You can do it with physical gold, which to me still is the safest investment for my money in the world on planet Earth. Gold is the place that I have capital allocated to play defense, to protect myself, and as a store of value, which I am not in Bitcoin for. They call it a digital gold store of value. It is not a store of value yet. Go take a look at the chart in Bitcoin from a year ago when you're trading in 60 plus thousand range, and now you're under 20. I'm sorry, but gold is down in the same period of time, maybe 12%, 15% maximum. I think it's probably closer to 12, depending on the days that you look. That I can handle. That is not so bad in this environment when you have the S&P that had been down as much as 25% just recently, while the average rate rising rate environment by the Fed. I just saw a couple of charts on this actually today, early this morning, where the last, I believe it was 7 recessions that we've had in a rising rate environment is basically the average pullback was around 28% in the S&P in the market that lasted an average of 14 months. Okay. And we've already seen that the S&P is basically, we had over a 25% pullback as of just recently off of its bounce. Its technical bounce. So we're definitely in the ballpark. We had a 50% retracement when the world was about to stop in the banking crisis and we were about to be insolvent globally. That's extreme. Do we need to see that again? I don't think so. I don't think that is going to be happening or necessary because we don't have the same amount of leverage in the system in terms of like people that all are so levered they just and have these these variable mortgages and things. The mortgages have been cleaned up. It'll be there is a correction. I was short real estate. I'm not saying that that hasn't or won't even continue. We should probably see some more weakness in U.S. real estate. It's just that the low hanging fruit is now, I think, been gone. If I can make 10x on leaps, options and inverse funds in shorting real estate since May, that's a pretty juicy return that I don't expect that from here you're going to be able to duplicate. And if you do, you're taking on a lot more risk because you're just doing it from higher levels. But in any event, I'm sorry I'm going all over the place a little bit. What I'm getting across is that, you know, he who owns the metals will rule the world. And I think that people are going to start figuring that out in the next 2 years. Around 2024, there has always been an apex that we've seen since 2017 and 18, when a lot of us started to, get involved and look for cobalt, lithium plays. Canada Cobalt, Eric, I don't follow it much anymore. It's not I have some stock that I still own, but it's definitely not a favorite at this point. I just they've had some kind of misrepresentation of enthusiasm to reality with some of the high grade silver intercepts they were getting when we were more actively involved in the deal. And it's one of those that I would call in the penalty box or a hold to a sell. There's better things that are out there. It'll survive. Frank Bass is a nice guy. He's a good guy. He's a hard worker. He should be able to keep it going. I think it will recover with everything else. But then you want to look at, what do you want to own? What do you want to own the most of in the bounce? Now is a great time to look. The issue with the tax loss selling season, which we are in and going into more, I don't think it's going to be as severe as people are fearing in the miners. Because, and listen, I've made a sort of a niche living carving out tax loss selling opportunities. Those of you that have been with me for years, for a decade or more, this is like where I crush it, usually every year, is accumulating things, especially when you have a year where there are gains elsewhere. So say if you had the S&P up and or crypto, more so in the stock market, that's where you have the perfect storms. We've had a number of those over the past decade where you had a situation where people are making a lot of money or they're profitable with gains in general stocks, tech stocks, S&P, whatever. But then in their gold miners, they've gotten hit or bludgeoned or they've been trading like crap. And then that's when you're more motivated to sell at any price, just to lock in the loss, buy it after 30 days or in the new year. A lot of people buy those things back. But how many of us have gains in other areas this year to be aggressive in locking in, losses at any price on the miners? I don't see it getting too crazy. I think we have usually seen these mining stocks bottom out always in November, even in a bad tax loss selling season. I think that we could be doing a double bottom right now. We'll see if it holds in a lot of the companies like the Newmonts of the world. Gold itself rolling over into a double bottom. Does it break down and go to new lows? Then, look for maybe another 10 to 15% in some of the juniors that could have a flush before we stabilize and start to rise into the new year, which I still believe will occur this year from current prices today. However, this is where I would get into strategy and not messing this up. The general consensus right now is vastly and thoroughly bearish. Nobody's doing anything. People are very reluctant to buy mining stocks, especially the juniors. And it's not only reluctance, it's either fear and or a very, very mass level of apathy, which is something that I try to make sure that I keep awareness of when that is happening to me. It's easy to get lulled into inactivity, right? When things are going down, when they're uncertain, when they're just boring and not even trading. But here's the bottom line. I was talking to a sophisticated, savvy elite member last night from Toronto. He's a successful investor, wealthy guy. and he does his homework as well in this sector. And we were just talking about it. I made a comment, and he said, "That's exactly right. These juniors are bombed out already. They're bombed out, meaning there's no volume. Like everybody who's going to sell in size, I mean, you're going to have little incidences here and there, maybe that come up, and those are going to be where you want to have what you call stink bids in. Just sit there, be patient right now. Have there's two ways to go about accumulating the juniors. One is to have some of those stink bids in just in case one guy wakes up, because you can have somebody sell 20 grand worth of stock and something will go down 40%, and it just snaps right back because it wasn't. I mean, it was just because there's no volume, right? So if you get lucky and you can accumulate the cheaper pieces of paper, go for it. However, what do I do with a lot of the little juniors? I buy regularly in small amounts, and I hit the offer. I always hit the offer. I hit the offer and I go above the offer. If I'm buying, if you're buying something, and then you can usually get it in the middle on those trades. A lot of times they'll fill you there, but I don't really mess around with that shit. I want to build positions regularly. I'm down with unrealized losses on some core positions, like my Phenom Resources, which is the biggest one, like Giga Metals, like McEwen Mining. These positions, I'm down. There's one account I just looked. I'm down almost 50% in MUX. And so, what did I do when I see that? I believe that company is an absolute, utter, freaking ridiculous bargain. So I bought a little bit more, and um, I need to find cash, right? Because I want to buy more equities right now. So if you have income, you're in the catbird seat. My suggestion is to continue to accumulate these names. Let me tell you what's going to happen on the nickel calls that I had that were early, that people are also down. If you took those recommendations, typically, on Giga, I think, I mean, if you're buying during this time and doing the accumulation piece, not just one shot on like an email where you get excited because you see some of the points and the data points and you agree with me. And then you're like, yeah, this is a big opportunity, but you don't have the staying power to stay in the stock. When that's the case, you have essentially got a problem, because you're going to have a short-term mentality and you're going to dump it at a low, and I'm going to be buying it from you. And it doesn't even matter how much money you have, guys, because obviously if somebody's wealthy, you have usually more tricks you can pull, assets you can lever, borrowing capabilities, how to raise money for, raise cash to go shopping. But it's all about, to me, percentages of your net worth and, of your income, of your liquid net worth. That's what you want to focus on, and be faithful with the small amounts, or you're never going to get rich. I really believe that this is a massive opportunity in the metals and mining stocks. What is going to happen in those nickel plays is that I don't know if it's going to start next week. I don't know if it's going to start and continue to have headwinds and potentially go into next year, but I'm absolutely convinced at some point next year, and it's probably still, I think it's going to start in Q4 as we get into November, December. We tend to see these stocks start to float back up for whatever reason. November typically is a low in the metals and mining stocks, even when we're in bear markets. That includes nickel as well as gold or vanadium, like with Phenom Resources, copper, which is McEwen, a big part of the McEwen asset. And, you don't have to go far down the rung and buy like a bunch of penny stocks that are trading the cheapest that you think is going to solve all of your problems and, make you very, very rich because it's going to go from 2 cents to $1. It's hard to hold those things through that type of a move. And I've had them, and, holding some even will end up paying off big. However, when you've got bargains like we're seeing, I mean, as one example, let me give you an example on gold, and I'll go back to the nickel story in a second. But IM Gold, IAG in the U.S., trading at a $1.31 right now, and it's got a market cap of 600 million US. They have a bunch of cash, and they just sold one of their non-core assets for $360 million in Suriname. This company's not going bankrupt. they're actually very cashed up to continue moving their flagship asset forward for a big production in early 2024. I got crushed on IM Gold leaps. They were long term. I know I was buying these, probably like a year ago. I don't know when I went in exactly and started to buy like I've got some $4 January 2023 um, leaps that I'm down like, there's one of them I'm down like, I'll pull it up. It's a lot. I mean, it's like 70 grand or something. But then I've got, because I've continued with it and I adjusted, I still believe in it. So I chip away and I buy a couple grand in new options that are January 2024, $2. And I've already got, one of those in particular that is, it's about, up a little bit. Um, that January 19th, 2024, I like those $2 calls on I am gold. But when you look at, yeah, so like the January 20th, 2023, $4 calls, I'm down like almost 90%. So that's a big hit, right? But you know what? I still believe from here going forward, there's a lot of money to be made. I wish I wouldn't have gone in so early, and taken such a plunge. I think that was because I had such massive amounts of profit last year from my crypto dealings that I was just putting money everywhere and trying to focus on some of the larger plays. And I'm up on my IM Gold position as the stock. I've just went in pretty deep recently, closer to $1 US, and that became a big bet. I think you can focus on things like Equinox, Kinross. I just added to my January 20th, 2023 $4 calls, which are out of the money. I just added to that like this week. Little pieces, it's not a big position. I'm taking a shot because it's got a short window, to make that. But, I think things are going to bounce a lot in the next 60 to 90 days. So we've got about 90 days left on that. And those things right now are trading at 20 cents and they could go easily to $1 or higher, as long as this thing, if it bounces from the mid to high threes US to five, that's $1 in the money. And if it happens in November, they could trade to $1.50 or even more with time value. But I've got these paper losses and stuff like, I mean, everything from, I still own a ton of, I haven't even deposited, for example, like Gungnir here. What is this? This is like, how many shares? I exercised warrants at a dime. It's 1,050,000 shares of Gungnir. And I've been in no rush to deposit these. I had to fill out other paperwork. It came back and forth. I sent the money in. Looks like, Haywood got the stock search, sent it back, had to fill something out. That was in August. But I exercised those warrants like earlier this year. I'm just letting you know I'm in no rush. It's going to pay off because it's a nickel asset in play with some gold. And another opportunity to mention that, you've got, I think, honest people running the company. They're working hard. They're doing their best. They're not exactly, the best of the best operators, but those assets are going to be they are worth so much more than the valuation that we've got in that stock. You can literally throw shit against the wall and buy any of these fucking juniors that are down, as long as they have enough to stay solvent until the turn, or they have the ability to raise a little bit of money. You don't want to see companies raising a lot of money down here. That's why with Phenom Resources, we only are raising 1.665 million bucks instead of, I was hoping if the stock was above 60, 70, 80, Paul and the company would have raised probably somewhere north of $5 million to drill the piss out of Carlin Smoke and, and do some other stuff. So, but you have to be very careful about what you're giving away and where that amount of money. By the way, with Phenom, you're probably going to see I think he's going to close it in two tranches. We've had stragglers. These are the signs that I get when I'm, seeing bottoms in markets. It's very tough to call a bottom and predict a bottom in a trend. When is that bottom? A capitulation, like in March 20, I think I'm pretty good at that. In fact, I called it to the hour. That Monday, whatever it was, after the 3x ETFs literally just blew up in smoke and were down to like nothing. And that was the 3x, the levered ETFs to GDXJ and GDX. And we went long, everything from silver long-term leaps that went up tremendously, 10x, whatever it was, depending on what you bought and when you bought. From when that email went out to everybody, I'm pretty good at the capitulation lows and big correction lows. It's more like, we've been in this cyclical bear market for years in the mining stocks, and it's getting long in the tooth. It's overdone. It's the time of year when things are the worst. Not only do we have that against us, but we have the macro with everybody afraid of more rising rates. But just remember something. By the time that the Fed comes out, and the market is a forward-looking mechanism, I say this all the time. I don't know exactly what that timeline is that the market sees, but it looks into the future to trade today, not in the past and not to today. It's probably somewhere in the ballpark of 9 months, 6 to 9 months. A lot of people that I respect think is that range. But that means that if they're going to pause raising rates in Q1 next year, by the Q2, the market is going to start to reflect that much sooner, which is why I've closed out all my shorts. I had shorts on the NASDAQ. I had shorts. A lot of those shorts were in real estate, and I made a lot of money, and I just put that money to work right away. Every time I took those profits in pieces, I put it to work in the exact companies that I'm talking to you about. I just did more of Phenom Resources. I think I have like a lost million share certificate to give you an idea. Like we're trying to find out if that was the case, because I've got definitely 6 million plus shares and warrants, but I actually think I have over 7 million. Which, that gets close to, it's going to hold even after this raise. I'm going to own probably 6.5% of the company myself. And so these are the things you want to get involved in. Do you think I'm going to lose that money? I mean, I'm just not going to. I've got investors, a number of them, that are in this deal for, millions of shares, 1 million plus. We will protect our investment. You know what I mean? Look, we've put in millions of dollars in this thing over the years, and that's what you need. You need groups and or people and or an investor who's very wealthy or whatever that, we've got Rob McEwen, we've got Tukey Angus. We'll rally and make sure that if there's another protracted period of time that we have to go through, where Vanadium stays quiet or whatnot. We did just have the first uptick in Vanadium, by the way, in the price that I've seen in a long time. I think in months. It was only 10 cents the other day, but back up to 7.30 a pound in Europe. And I'm just so bullish on Vanadium. I'm so bullish on the metals and the miners. And I wanted to relay some thoughts. Wasn't as concise as I was hoping to be, but I mentioned don't screw this up, meaning if you give up now, make a decision. You should either just get out and if you do this over and over again, where you buy into excitement when things are going up, and then when they're down, you just give up. If you have to, look, what the biggest thing that sucks, and I've talked about this, I've had to have it happen many times in my career to finally change my behavior because of the pain involved. When I'm looking at a lot of these stocks, like a lot of you are, you're saying to yourself, well, that thing is a steal, but I don't have any cash. And in fact, I might even have to sell some to pay my rent, pay my mortgage. I've been there. In those cases, guys, look around you for the ability to hold on to this stuff at this point, no matter what, if you can get away with it. Borrow the money to pay your mortgage or your rent, sell some other asset, that is not down this much, or that was part of your safer piece, or a A lot of people talk about having no cash, but that just doesn't include your emergency cash stash or your emergency savings. This is an emergency. This is where I start pulling money, and I have been now for a bit. I'm looking around. Where do I have like, U.S. dollar tokens? I mean, the Americans like me, we're in a really good position, a great position because we can buy gold so cheap right now. You can buy the physical. It is retarded how cheap the price of gold is in US dollars. In virtually every other major country and currency, gold's at or near new highs because they're being debased faster. The dollar's the last one usually to go, but it's going to, I've also called the top on the dollar. I think the dollar has peaked. I might be wrong on some of this stuff, guys, a little bit in terms of, again, like we might have one more flush or another month or whatever, like in downturn in some of these, stocks and mining stocks and the metals before we go up. But I'm not playing day to day or week to week or month to month. I'm here to make tens of millions of dollars this time. And I already had gone from being a, 5-figure kid to a 6-figure guy to a 7-figure to we're going eights and probably, who knows if I can get this thing anywhere near correct, if I'm correct on my bullishness in crypto and in, metals and mining and a lot of the picks I have, which I think some of them can turn into like unicorns that are very special. And that's not even counting duplicating what was happening to my portfolio before in crypto with, dozens and dozens of triples and 5-baggers and 10-baggers and 100-baggers and 50-bag. Ridiculous, with these little pieces. But it's again because I don't do everything all at once typically. If there are core positions and a core sector, I accumulate regularly. I've encouraged people. They're like, should I buy Bitcoin then? Or nobody will do it, frankly, that I've talked to, which is a great sign that I think the chances are better that we're not going to see new lows in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and crypto than that we are because everybody thinks that's going to happen. Same thing here. People are bearish gold, they're bearish stocks, they're bearish mining stocks, very bearish mining stocks. And everybody's waiting to buy cheaper if you have cash. Well, guess what? These little miners, for example, what's going to happen is that they're going to double and triple just floating higher sort of subtly while we still think another low might come because somebody buys 50 grand worth of the stocks. Like, it's insane. That's what's going to occur. And you've missed that chance because you were not accumulating regularly. That's what I tell people that don't know what they're doing in crypto and or investing. I say, this is what I'm doing. Like even I've told you guys, I buy regularly physical gold. Physical silver is a little tougher. I buy some of that I usually am mostly exposed in the mining, silver miners. But I have physical silver, that I buy through ETFs. And then I sprinkle on some long-term leaps on SLV and things like that, but calls and, but regular gold purchases, but I bought a lot more, a little bit higher, taking profits in other high-risk areas. And I just would never sell my gold now. There's going to come a day where it's going to be expensive compared to my US dollar earning currency. And, then I might go back into swapping some of that back over or going into other opportunities. But it's a screaming buy at these prices. But what I do, I love, on the apps, even though some of the commissions are high, like with Coinbase, you have Cash App, PayPal, all these different pieces that are payment methods. Some of us use those for business, to send money here or there, and I've got this auto deduct that is set up in these different accounts where I buy $444 of Bitcoin on my Cash App every 2 weeks. I buy $777 of Ethereum every 2 weeks or every month in Coinbase, and I spread those out. And I've got even smaller amounts at like, $300 where I'm buying like some of my favorite, what I would call mid caps, like Link, Chainlink, Cosmos, Polkadot, Filecoin, just chipping away, because I did that in 1819 and it turned into a lot of money. Okay. You don't need to have that much at risk in these areas when you're doing this. If you auto accumulate, the longer it lasts, the lower they go, the more I'm going to make if and when they end up going into a bull market. It's the same thing with the mining stocks. Stick with this sector. Do not fall asleep. Hold on to everything you possibly can if you're not in a position, you don't have income to buy more. If you have money and you have some resources and you have some liquidity, this is a buyer's market, but you should be actively buying just something. And then if we get, but even right now, I mean, you can take big ass bets in some of the more liquid plays in the listed companies. I mean, I'm still looking, actually, as I moved back and transitioned to Miami this weekend, I'm going to be reviewing next week where I can pull cash. And I'll go in, with a chunk, hopefully of cash that I can move from different places next week. And I'll buy as much as I can, which is appropriate in chunks, even though it's not, if like MUX, for example, and gold and the sector holds a double bottom, if we're seeing that hold and bounce, I'm going to put a chunk of money in because of where we are in the calendar year, where I feel that we're getting very close. And you also have, guys, normally I think there is, still risk here this month for possibly, there's not really the ability for a black swan when everybody's expecting a black swan, but something could happen and we could have a flush in the market, which I would buy into, because you also have, at least here in America, there's elections coming up in a few weeks. They're going to do whatever they can to, make sure that like the people that are in office right now are going to have some level of, they're not going to want to take it at the last minute on the chin because of the stock market crashing or oil prices going to 180, which it probably will after they do all the strategic reserve dumping for political reasons. These are the type of things that they can do to temporarily buoy things. But, then we get into a more friendly time of the year. It gets slow as well. So, you have to be prepared to take action in the slow markets, in my experience, to get the best buys. So it's the two things on the strategy. One is the automatic accumulation, where position sizing is very important. You don't want to overdo it. You just want to make sure you can be sustainable. You can look out 1 to 2 years and say, I can keep this up buying at this rate, with these stocks or with crypto or with gold. And I can do it every month or every quarter or every 2 weeks. I can stay at this price and it's not a problem. And then when you see opportunities present themselves or, major pullbacks, that's when you put more in. But you're in the mentality, like you have to be in the mentality that you're not afraid to buy when things are down. Otherwise, you're never going to make yourself a lot of money in the markets. I don't care if I'm telling you this or that, or somebody starts to hit that you have as a resource with ideas. You're going to fuck it up. You're going to. I've done it so many times, guys. I mean, I'm not talking down to anybody. I just know that the majority of people lose money in this game. It's not an easy game. And I would say, thanks for the questions, Eric, and the interaction. I don't really like NVX. You put Novonix. I think you're talking about NV Gold. It's a little too early stage for me. I think I made a little bit of a mistake on getting so heavily involved in NVX back in the day, if that's the one that you're talking about, because I had seen something that I should have looked into closer. Yeah, NV Gold. I thought that they actually already had over 1 million ounce resource, but it was sort of a little bit of a promo thing that they don't. They've got a lot of, Nevada projects, and the guys are capable. It's also very cheap in the sector. So I'm not saying you need to dump it, but if you get a bounce there and there's something else that's better, there's a lot of them, I think, just that are more advanced. There's companies like even Bravada. I would rather own Bravada than Envy, because Envy they've got to drill out projects and find gold at all. because they're green projects. But Bravada's already got the assets. They've been drilling, like Wind Mountain's had decades of drilling and work done on it, and 8 figures spent to do so. So, and they've got other projects in Nevada. So I just look at those situations nowadays with, you can pick the cream of the crop though too. Phenom Resources is the best story in the mining sector in exploration, period. And don't forget, guys, you might just wake up in the next 30 days and see that the US government gave Phenom Resources a $100 million grant to develop the Carlin Vanadium asset in Nevada. I'm not pumping this up. I've brought it to your attention that they've applied for 2 categories for $100 million each. And there's a number of other grants they've applied for that are between 100 grand and $1 million. The 100 million is the biggie. And if the US government, which is giving away $7 billion here, we're seeing it in these other companies that are, I think, lesser plays, but they're doing it in, it's clean. It's all about securing clean, battery metal type of stuff, clean energy, developing that within the country. If they decide, and I think when you look at the DOD, this is from the big ones are from the DOE, they're going to know about vanadium's importance. And, you have next generation rockets, self-defense, you have a vanadium market that is very important, to the steel industry. And then you look at these battery technologies, and I just find vanadium a superior metal and more exciting to me than lithium and what it's capable of. Not to say that lithium isn't, something that I'm also bullish on, especially the miners, not necessarily the price of lithium. But when you have the price of a commodity go up 500-600%, and then the companies that own and are developing assets in that commodity somewhere, and their prices are down 50%, I'd rather, as long as that asset, that commodity price is up, those stocks are going to go towards meeting the commodity price versus the commodity price necessarily going and following the mining stocks. It just, that's what's most important. And, so essentially, if the US government decides that they want anything to do with vanadium in this $7 billion package, they're giving it to us. We have the largest, by far, highest grade vanadium asset in North America, which is growing. We're going to see another batch. Paul Colley had mentioned to me that just with the holes they released in that last news release of drilling those shallow holes of vanadium, it's like $150 to $200 million in vanadium value at like less than $8 vanadium, like where the market is today. And there's nothing there that's been reflecting that. And the large gold systems we have, and I think you're going to see some other stuff occur. But if you get $100 million grant, what's it going to do to the stock? I don't know. You tell me. If that happens, I think it changes everything. This thing could go over $1 within days to weeks. It's a lot of money, and it's a grant. You don't even have to pay it back. You get $20 million a year for 5 years. I'm seeing these other companies get allocated $100 million. I've even seen a company get allocated $700 million. That is not that large to command a $700 million. This is more in other areas of energy, but it doesn't matter. So anyway, and oil and uranium, I am bullish. I think that I'm most focused on gold and silver and nickel right now. I think those are my areas. I think I'm very, very exposed. I will be looking at some oil longs, some new longs. I had been buying more of Shoal Point, which is now an emerging small producer, which I think based on what they've been pulling there, their 5th well is going in, and they've got only a small slice of the pie with these new wells in this area in Kansas, but it's going to be run on a cash flow and built up slowly. And you're talking about they just had some delays with casing and things, and that's going to end up accelerating. And the same guy, Mark Jarvis, who runs Giga Metals, and I need to talk to him probably tomorrow and find out if there's any action going on on the heels of Mitsubishi, which valued the Turnagain asset $8 million for 15%, not even the rest of Giga's assets, which are not, that's the big one, but still, that's like a $53 million Canadian value, which is trading at less than half of that right now for the whole market cap. And the next company that comes around that wants a piece of that asset, they're going to probably have to pay double. Ford or VW, whoever it is, Toyota, whoever comes on the heels of Mitsubishi that did the first deal, they're going to have to pay up. So these things don't make any sense, guys. Like, I went through some of the MUX information recently, and it just it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. These things, these valuations are too low. People are too bearish on gold miners, silver miners, nickel miners. I'm long. I probably need to look at boosting my uranium exposure a little bit. I'm not that long. I still have things like my Encore Energy piece, which, that thing is up I'm already up like 15 times my money on what I have left. I've already taken probably 2/3 of that off the plate and moved that in other areas. Some of that was a while ago that I put into crypto on a massive hit there and rotated it in before or on a pullback. I don't remember exactly when, where I was up so much. We made a ton of money there, and you don't need a lot of these guys. You just need to be able to sustain, to add some stuff in low markets. It's not that complicated. It's actually more simple than we give it credit for in terms of being able to do this stuff correctly. And I think that the biggest mistake that I see is people think too short term. Don't think just because you don't have a ton of dough or you don't have a lot of liquidity, oh well, you've got money, so you can afford to wait. Guess what? I had to act as if I had money before the money came to me. It's just part of life. You know what I mean? You want to start acting like you would, like you are rich already. How would you act? It's about percentages that matter. And I will tell you guys a secret that is more on the personal side. But you want to get rich? You want to have a special arrow in your quiver, actually? This is something that's happened to me. The reason why I think that, I've been able to have these successes and my mind is shifted and I haven't made the same mistakes, especially now when you're down and you're afraid or scared or concerned about where things would go, where you're going to be homeless and living in a ditch. We can all have that mentality, right? Some people can go there, and you don't want to go there, even if it is not far off. You don't want to go there, and you want to go to the fact that you're going to prosper and you can help somebody else that's in a worse position than you are if you're investing any money in the markets. Again, it's about percentages. But when's the last time you gave any cash away to a cause that you believe in, that you would like to help? This whole idea of I'll do this when I get to this point and have this much in the bank, then I'll help other people, is a fucking lie. That will never happen. If you don't do something now, I'm just going to end with this. This is totally personal stuff, personal belief stuff, but you've seen it work for me. You don't know all the details, but the details are better than I allude to, okay? In terms of new wealth creation from the market, from my own accounts, not from subscriptions growing from the Gold Investment Letter, from zeroing in on my own assets and making sure that I manage this stuff the right way. Okay, so my life changed probably, over 5, maybe 7 years ago, whatever. I started the Phenom Foundation in 2015, 16. I had no money really to speak of. I had some, but not a lot. And my income was very unpredictable. And I started the foundation then because of a scripture, one sentence by Jesus Christ that changed my worldview of everything, because I had something telling me, pay attention to this. He who is faithful with a little thing is faithful also with much. He who is unfaithful with little will also be unfaithful with many or much. What that told me was I got to start where I'm at, and then I can incrementally see. And for me, it's God blessing me. I can't possibly outgive My God, it's impossible. I get, and Jesus also talked about 10, 30, 50, 100x returns on giving. Try it. And I did. And I did. And I went and I started where I was. I forced myself to give when I had, very little visibility or cushion. And I was able to incrementally increase that. I'm still doing that today. I just moved a bunch of money from a fund in April, May that I sold off when Bitcoin cracked like 30,000. This is a fund that I had as just, it's up a lot because I invested a while ago and I still have a lot of money with that fund manager. But I just wanted to reduce risk a bit. I was sick, I was recovering in the hospital. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I also knew I felt that moving that I got to, everything's going down. So are you going to step up and actually continue to do what you were able to do at a lower level and help my people, help, give some cash when you don't want to, you want that dry powder. And I said, okay, I'm going to do it. And I moved, a lot of money, and I decided right off the bat to put 1/3 of it, and it's going to go to a half of what I had moved. A third of it went into stocks, into opportunities. Some of it was there for just operating capital to have a cushion and to do some placements and things like that. But over a third of it, I put into the foundation, and I just started giving it away. And man, oh man, does that feel powerful? From a psychological standpoint, if you want valuable information from my experience, this is it, because it neutralizes that fear, the fear that makes us make emotional decisions and screw ourselves when we should be doing the opposite, right? I'm telling you, it's a little trick that you could test it on some level if you want to. If any of you do this, I would love to hear the stories in the future. Some stories will happen pretty fast. Others, it's gonna come back to you in ways that, even just that neutralizing of this fear-mongering world that we're in. Everything is like just dark, and everybody's worried about everything. I don't live that way, and I'm so grateful for that. And it doesn't even matter if all the money goes away or the centralization. I believe that I've always been taken care of, right? And I think a lot of you have been too, even if you've had to work your ass off for, in certain things. But this is like doing the reverse. It's like the difficult part in life when you're an adult, I think, is like not necessarily learning more, but it's like the unlearning of the bad habits and the wrong information and stuff like that. So this is just one tactic that I am sharing, that like, and listen, like, people came up to me years ago. I would go to orphanages in Mexico and everything, and I get so much out of this stuff. There's no higher purpose when I get a text or a call or something from a donation where somebody's crying and they're just like, you have no idea how close we are to the edge. You came right in time. I've had stories where people were like, I just was praying for this amount from God last night. And then I have this range in my head and I send it and I kind of listen to it. And it's like incredible. So I get so much out of that it's better than money. But I also know it's a little bit selfish, because I know I'm going to get paid back in spades in different ways that I can't even manufacture in my wildest dreams. That's what happens for me. It's believing, it's the faith. Not everybody has that. I'm not asking you to consider doing something if that just is not part of your life at all. I mean, you could, though, and I don't think you're going to get hurt trying it if whatever you've been doing isn't working for you. If you want to break through, these are the type of things that I found have helped me with the breakthrough, more than me just being like a smart guy. And I feel like I have a talent for this business, but I've made so many mistakes, guys. Hang in there in this market. Hold every share of mining stocks and gold and silver and physical onto it like it's just, they'll have to pry your dead hands from it. If you don't have a lot of capital, try to keep what you have and try to find some other ways to sock some of this shit away, because they're going so much higher. You just have to wait. We have to wait. It's going to change, guys. Okay. So that's it for now. I'll end this right below an hour. Got into a lot that I wasn't planning on. I hope some of you enjoyed it and hit the like button. And most of you that are watching this now are your subscribers, because I haven't announced this video yet and sent out the email. So I appreciate you subscribing here, and I want to put out more stuff, shorter, that are just like spontaneous like this. So take it easy.